Now I want to make a tutorial about how to proliferate the identity. And by proliferation I mean, in Turkish this is çoğaltmak. I mean how to take the elements that we put together in the stationery package here and apply them to other kinds of objects, such as, for example, vehicles, which I'm going to be showing you how to do as we progress. Now, if you remember, I made 3 different kinds of folders, and when I did that, I said in a previous tutorial that I was doing that because the folder, the cover of the folder, is a good transitional point from the stationery package to these other kinds of elements. So it's always a good idea to have versions of the folder, to have different elements that make up different folders instead of just one, because they will become a bridge between all of this and then this, because the elements that you see here are actually the elements that I have on this thing right here. So before we go here and actually look at how all of this was put together, I want to do some prep work. So what I did is I took the vector element that I have here, that I put here as a whole thing, and I separated it into pieces. Now, one of the things that I did is I actually, if we look like this, I separated this in Illustrator. I selected the plant. That was the only thing that I could select in Illustrator. The other stuff was too complex to select as a whole, as a group. But then I made a copy of this and I rasterized that. So this is actually a bitmap. So what I did is, if I do it again, I right-clicked on this and then I said rasterize layer, at which point this little thing here disappears and this actually becomes a perfectly straightforward bitmap. So then what I did is, and I'm going to show that to you with the second one, which I haven't quite completed yet. So I have it here. I took the magic wand tool, this here, I put the tolerance to 32, anti-alias, contiguous, and then I clicked on one color. In this case I'm clicking on the beige, and I'm clicking on all the separate parts, so there's a little bit in here and there's a little bit in here, and then I just copy and paste that onto a new layer, and here it is. Now I've already done that with the red here, and I've already done it with the gray, but obviously this plant that I have is now showing up as a transparent area, so I need to get rid of this. So the way that I do that is I come in close, even closer, and I go to the polygonal lasso tool and I start making a selection that kind of fills up the whole thing. Then I go to the cloning stamp tool, which is this one right here, clone stamp tool, it says. Then I hold down the Alt key and click, and then come here and start filling it in. Now you have to do this several times. And then obviously I have to come to the bottom and do the same thing again here. But here I have very little that I need to select. If I hold down the control key, it'll just close up. Now again, back to the cloning stamp tool. And now we have the whole thing. Now, this is actually a large document. It's an A3. It's 3500 pixels by almost 5000 pixels. And I made that especially big like that because I knew that I was going to be changing vectors into bitmaps, so I needed to have a big size. But the original vector is still here, and it's also still here in the folder document. So I still have that if I need to go back to it. But what I need to do now is I already did the red. I also need to do that with the gray, which I'm not going to do now, but because you got the idea. So I have effectively separated this here, which is a vector, and which, if we double click on it, will take us to Illustrator. In fact, we can do that right now. Here it is. And so the only thing that's left that I need to have is this thing here. So I'm just going to go Control C, and then let's close this and select Smart Object. Now, this is something that I think some people are having trouble with in the class. When this opens, it opens on pixels as a default. You need to go up one and select Smart Object. So here it is. So now this is a vector also. So I have all the bits and pieces. So the vector is obviously not in the right place. It would need to, let's see, but it also needs to get bigger, I suppose. But that one is right here as well. So that's the prep work. That's what you need to do in order to have everything ready to put into all of this stuff. It needs to be a nice big size, and in order to separate it, I really have no choice but to turn it into bitmaps. So that's what I did. So let's now get to these. Now the bike is this one right here, except as you can see I flipped it horizontally, and everything about it has changed. And the car is here. This is what it has ended up becoming like. So I can close this. Now on this here, I just want to show you a few things. Now you can change colors. So this is this right here. This here. Again, up here. So you can change all of the colors, and then what you can also do is you can so this is the front, you can replace the design here, and this is the back, and you can replace the design here, and then here you have the case and you have the helmet, and all of these things can be replaced. And I'm going to show you, I'm not going to fool around with this one here, I'm going to show you everything that I did. Now let me close the car first. Hang on. So we just have this visible. Now let's go here, because this is important now, because remember I flipped the motorbike around. It was facing in the other direction. So when I double click on this, oh hold on, I'm in the wrong place. The text here is flipped. So what you see here is this whole group here, all of it. So if I just go back and do this and save and go here, now everything will be facing the other direction. So that's something that you need to be aware of when you are flipping a mockup, which you can do. Then, and if there's text on it, then you need to be aware that the text is going to be flipped as well. So you would need to flip it horizontally so that it appears correctly over here. I placed, let's see, I did a lot of playing around with this because the reflections were too heavy. So what I did is, for example, let's see, this is the reflection, like watch this area here. So I added a layer mask to that. So when I disable it, look, it starts getting too much, and I'm seeing too much reflection here and not enough of the text. So let's just zoom in to 100%. So I added a layer mask and I softened that down. Let's see, same here. So if I disable the layer mask, it starts getting too bright. So let me enable it again. And I also did that with the case. So when I close this eye, the whole reflection goes away. I don't want that, obviously. What I want is I want to have the center part here become a little bit more visible. Now if I disable that, look, it's getting to be too white. So what I did with that is actually I just went in with the lasso tool, like so. Hold down Control and it'll just close it up. I put a small feather, like a 15, or could even be a 10. So now the mask will only work inside the selected area, and then I just went to the gradient tool and make sure that you are actually on the mask and not on the color but the mask. And then I just went in, like, I don't want to do that now, but just to show you how this works, let's just close these. If I, whoops, sorry. Look, it's getting even brighter. Now I don't want to have it this bright, so I'm just going to go back to what I had. But anyway, I did a lot of fine detail work on almost all of the reflections. On the helmet also, so I have the reflection here, which I lessened. I have the reflection here. No, sorry, that's the actually the design layer. With the case I already showed you, and then with the body I showed you as well. But another thing that I did is, let's see, there are the motor layers here. So there's the vehicle main body, which is actually a smart object, which is good. Now I have a smart filter on here, which is a level, so I made it a little bit darker, but you know, I don't know if I want to keep that or not, so I actually turned this into, I actually use the smart filter so that I always have the option to go back. But then I also double, sorry, where's the, yeah, it's right here. So if I double click on it, I have an effect on it. I put a very small drop shadow so that it kind of distinguishes itself from the car. But then also another thing that I did is I actually went in with the curves and made this darker. I'm not going to do it now. I don't want it to get any darker. But let's see, maybe like this. And then also what I did is I took some parts of it, so I can do that a little bit here. And again, let's put a feather on it and just make it a tiny little bit darker. And then when you save it, it'll actually show up here. And then here, like I said, I also have an additional level, which I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that or not. I'm giving myself that option. And on the helmet, let's see. All I did was I just took one of those, that big red here, and just dragged it onto here and put it in the right position, which obviously you always have to go tile all vertically so that you actually see what you're doing. This I can close. So let's see now. And I tried a lot of different things, as you can see. I opened some things. So if I were to save this now, we would get the this plant, but I don't want that plant. I just want this. So I made this. When I dragged it here, actually it was bigger. I had to make it smaller. So I just have the red dot on the helmet. Now let's see. The side design is this, and here all I have is the logo, and then it looks like this. It's flipped, as I already told you. Here what I have is I have the big cat and then another red dot, and that shows up like this. So the cat is just peeking out from here. And then of course the most important thing is the case, and for the case again I just, let's see, I have the cat, I have the red dot, I have the grey, the beige, but when I drag this plant here, I made that the same color as this, as the blue turquoise that I have on the logotype, because I got this feeling that I needed to have a little bit of more color here. Like if let's see, again, let's tile everything vertically. If I close this and save it, it needs that. I don't know if you can, oops, sorry, I don't know if you can see that, but for me it really does need that turquoise. It needs some kind of reference to the logotype, so I'm just going to open the eye and save it again. So that is why I have that here. It's the same design element, it's the same plant, except that I changed the color. Is that okay to do in the context of a corporate identity? Yes, of course it is. So essentially that's what I did. Oh, and one more thing that I did is I desaturated the bike, because let me just open the other one again real quick here. Now when you eliminate all of the things, you have this orange front light, and then you have the yellow headlight and all of these things. And when I was adding my things on it, this orange here and the yellow here were really bothering me. So in order to get rid of those, I desaturated everything. So that's one other thing that I did, which I should tell you, which you may also want to do sometimes. So now let's open the car again, and what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to import the van. So let's see, where is the van? I think it's this one right here. Yep, Now again, let's tile everything vertically. So it says there's a color correction here, which I'm not sure if I need it, but in any case, I'm just going to make all of this into a group, call it fan, and then go to the background so that I drag this onto the correct layer, and voila, here it is. So everything I'm going to do here, I'm not going to be working on this separately, because now this is obviously huge, and also it is facing in the wrong direction, and I'm going to explain to you exactly what I mean by that in just a second, after I bring this down to a reasonable size, which would probably be something like this. Now, why am I saying that this is facing in the wrong direction? Now just imagine to yourself that you're standing on the sidewalk and this van is driving past you. You would need to see all of this stuff, the logotype and the address and the telephone number, on your side of the street. But this is on the driver's side, so it's on the opposite side of you. So this thing actually needs to be flipped. And now, when it's driving past you, as you're on the sidewalk, you will see everything in the correct place. But that will mean that we are going to have to, and this is probably going to have to get a little bit smaller, but I will deal with that at the end. That will mean that again, all of this logotype stuff is going to have to get flipped again, and we have to be careful with that. I'm just going to open this now as well. Again, tile all vertically, and side edit this. So that's the thing that we need to be working on. Now let me just close this. Sorry, zoom out, didn't mean close. Now let's save this. I keep letting these slip. So, we now made it gray. That's the first thing that we want to do. Now we want to actually bring in the logo. So I'm going to put the logo just anywhere, just to see roughly where it goes. So it looks like as if it needs to, well, let me flip it. Oh, actually before I flip it, let me just zoom in here, because we have more here than we actually need. On the vehicles, we don't really need an address. All we need is a phone number and then the internet information. And actually we should also ideally have a cell phone number here. Now let me flip this, and let's see where it's landed now. Now I can see that this is going to have to move in this direction, which means that it's going to have to move in this direction. And it's going to have to move quite a bit, I think. Even more. And it's going to have to get smaller, I think, so that it fits on the back door. Went a bit too far. Yep, this looks about right. Needs to go up. Let me just close this car because it's getting in the way. think it needs to come in a bit. Needs to get just a little bit smaller, and I'm actually going to do that numerically. Okay, I can bring it up more. Now, I'm not bothered about fitting this exactly to the door or anything like that, because I'm actually going to be doing other things with it. So, let's see. So this is the turquoise rectangle. I'm just going to make this go up like that. And this is the black rectangle. Now that one, I think I'm going to make come down a bit. Well, don't you know, I mean, I'm exactly in the right place. That's exactly where I want it to be, huh? Okay, I'm just going to move this over just a tick. Sorry. Wrong direction. So, you see, you have to kind of like think in reverse, which is not very easy, of course, most of the time. Now let me just come here. Oh, actually I do want the big cat. I want the big cat to come right over here. It's taking a while to save. Now, what I would like is, this is the turquoise, this is the black rectangle. I'm going to make this go below this here, and then I'm going to actually open up the cat just a tiny little bit. In fact, that may already be too much. And also, when I open it up, I'm noticing that this cat seems to have a little bit of red in it. I don't want that. I'm just going to decrease the saturation, so now I have actually two smart filters on here. Now let's save this again. I know it's a drag, it takes a long time to save, but we are going to have to do that. Now, my idea is that I want the turquoise to be over the cat and the black to be below the cat. Now, let's continue. This red dot I definitely want, but I don't want it to be this big. Let's see. Maybe like this. Now, I'm just going to save this. just to show you something. I'm just going to open up the car again, and when you look at this red here and then this red here, this is darker. What I did is, with all of these, I actually brightened all of the colors because they were looking too dark, and I didn't want that, so I brightened all of them. So I'm going to do the same thing now with this one here. So I'm just going to go to Control M, Curves, and I'm just going to open this up just a bit. Now let's go back here. Let's put this here, and then we have the gray one. Let's put that here. Save again. So this needs to change location. This is looking good, but this needs to change. Oh, hold on. We have a little bit of stupidness happening here, so that needs to get taken care of. This here, I'm not happy with that. Well, I want it here, but I don't want it to break like this. So what I will do is I will actually just lop that piece off. Can I do that? Am I allowed to do that? Yes, of course I am. Oops. Yeah, I just have a little bit left, so I'm just going to just go in once again. Great, it's gone. Now, as for this one, I think I could use more of that over here. So, there we go. We have a car, we have the van, and we have the bike. Now, let's just place the van properly. And I think it needs to get smaller in relation to the car. So I think it needs to become something like this. And I can bring it out a bit more. I can raise it a bit more. I can't move the car because there's something with the car, with the background of the car, where I start getting a patch. So that's no good. I can maybe move in the bike a little bit, maybe move in the van a little bit so that I can get a better crop. And that would pretty much be the suite of delivery vehicles of Tekir Efendi. Okay people, I will see you in just a little while when we do some shopping bags. Okay, on to the shopping bag. Now, I'm just going to go down the history. So the one that I chose is this one right here, and let me just show you this. If you go to the mockups and you go to paper shopping bags, there's a zillion of them here. So I just picked one of them, and this is it. And I picked this especially because I thought that this side panel here would be really good for my logotype right here. So let's see what I did. I opened that side panel and I made my logo exactly as wide as that, and amazingly enough it actually fit almost perfectly. I just had to make this black one a little bit longer, but basically that's all I had to do. And then I also opened up the front panel, and there I just took let's see, this guy right here, this one, and then this one right here. So just, you know, if I eliminate all of them, and this here, so I took this one and put them like this. Then let's see, tested out some things obviously, modified the inside color, but I then did that again, modified the handles, which you can just do from here, custom handle color, custom inner back, custom outer back, very easy. But then I realized that this shading layer here actually has a linear burn, which makes it very dark and very powerful, very different from what I have here. So I added the layer mask right here. Then I selected this front panel, gave it a feather, and then I used the paint bucket tool, which is let's see, it's this one right here. It's actually below the gradient tool, so you have to click on it and then go and find it. And then the paint bucket tool is at 10%, tolerance 32, anti-alias not contiguous. So I just kept throwing more and more of that thing, so that this shading here got lighter. Deselect, then just did the red one here, again feather, again a whole bunch of paint buckets to make this lighter. Again deselect, but then I realized that that wasn't going to be enough, so I went back into the smart object and I actually made everything lighter there. Then I started experimenting with that front design PSB, this smart object here. I started putting in these things. Then I added a cat, and this is a new cat now. This is not the lying down cat, and this is not the cat that I have on the logo. This is actually this cat right here. It comes out of that same pattern, but it's a different one. So I put that one in there, started moving it around. Then I added that leaf that we had, gave it a color, moved it around, didn't like it, added another one, closed the eye of that one, started moving this one around. Then I realized that I also needed to lighten this, gave it a feather, paint bucket, paint bucket, paint bucket, paint bucket, deselect. Then I went back and modified the color fill layer again. Then I moved the cat in a bit. Then I made that lighter. Then I made the background darker, which I also did with the vehicles, because I feel that this bright blue, turquoise, whatever it is, and then this orangey red here are going to work much better on dark backgrounds rather than light backgrounds, which is why I'm doing that. Let's see, I seem to have done a lot of updates, but I'm not exactly sure what they are. Then I dragged in these guys, which I had made previously. I'm not sure what they are. They're towels or blankets or something like that. Moved them to a new location. Grouped the layers. Moved everything to the center. Then I realized that this shading here, whoops, is actually not going all the way to the edge when I move it. So I extended that. I transformed it. I just made it bigger. Then I did the same thing on the bottom. Deselect, move these to a slightly different location, change the color fill again, and then finally I also realized that there might be a problem with the shading, that the shading here, the shading layer that this person put here, may actually have a slight color, which is why these things end up becoming a little bit muddy here, which I don't like, as you know. So I desaturated that. I just opened it and just went zoom like that. And so now we have, let me just open this. I have no idea why my Photoshop is acting up today, which as you can see it is. So anyway, so now we have another mock-up which has a shopping bag and also these, well, towels or small blankets or whatever they are. So it's a combination. And I think I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to leave you to figure out what to do with the mugs and the t-shirt. I'm sure you'll do great. So I will catch you later.